Got a beautiful overcast day here in the woods, which makes me think of good horror stories, good thrillers, good spooky tales for a cloudy day in the woods. And that led me inevitably to The Mummy, the Will, and the Crypt by John Bellairs. This is one of my favorite all-time middle grade horror stories. John Bellairs goes back to the 80s. If I'm not mistaken, I'll have to double check that, but yeah, it goes back at least until the 80s. I believe I read The House with a Clock in Its Walls, which I believe was his debut novel back in like 4th grade. I believe, as I recall, it was a gift from one of my sisters on Christmas, and I read that book, really enjoyed it, started looking for more work, and eventually came upon The Mummy, the Will, and the Crypt. This is what I would call literary horror. It's very different than Goosebumps, for example. Not to, be offensive, no offense to Goosebumps at all, but Goosebumps has a purpose. It's a thrill. It's a fast thrill. It's popcorn. You just can't stop turning the pages because R.L. Stine he's just at that point in time perfected the art of pulp fiction. And I say that with nothing but respect and admiration and jealousy. Because I love pulp fiction, okay? John Bellairs, on the other hand, he takes his time. You got to think about stuff. It's not slow. It's not a slow burn or anything like that. It's just a little bit more thoughtful than R.L. Stine. Both of them are very good. I love both of them. They're just very different. If you're looking to get just a little taste of your childhood back, man, get a copy of The Mummy, the Will, and the Crypt. Go build yourself a couch for it and get the paperback. Get a book. Don't read it on an ebook, man. Get something that you can hold in your hands and curl up with like some cocoa, preferably on a cloudy day somewhere, and breeze through this very frightening book. One of the great things about John Bellairs, as I refer to it as being literary, is he has characters that you can get invested in. I can't name more than a handful of Goosebumps characters. I remember Carly Beth from Haunted Mask, and that's it. Because R.L. Stine characters in Goosebumps are fairly interchangeable for the most part. Again, no offense intended. That's just what they are, and there's nothing wrong with that, again. John Bellairs, on the other hand, you get invested in Johnny, in Professor Childermass, Roderick Childermass, and you get invested in Uncle Jonathan and Miss Zimmerman and Lewis and Tarby and Fergie and all of these great characters who you can cozy up with as you read the book, which is just a very different experience than when you might get reading Goosebumps. So, highly recommend it. The Mummy, the Will, and the Crypt starts off as a mystery, and then as we start approaching the climax of the story, it definitely turns into a horror story, and that's one of the things I love about it. Of all of the John Bellairs books, this is probably the most frightening. I would recommend it. Certainly 6th grade is fine. In fact, it's probably a little low for 6th grade, depending on the reader. 5th grade is good. I would go 4th grade, maybe 3rd grade if you've got a good reader. One of the questions I always got as someone who worked in a library is, will my kid like this? Or, is this safe for my kid? And the answer I always gave is, it depends on the kid. There are some 18-year-olds who aren't ready for this, and then there's some 6-year-olds who are like, let's go! So it really depends on the kid. But I will tell you, if you're a parent wondering about John Bellairs, I will say, if you're not sure, read the book with them. Every time, that's going to be my answer. Read the book with them, and then you can talk about it. And you can talk about the scary parts, or you can talk about some of the character development. Johnny in The Mummy, the Will, and the Crypt is a kid who's had to move to a new town, and his mom is gone, and his dad is off fighting a war, and he's very alone, and he's very isolated. He likes books. He's kind of a nerd. If these are things you or your kid or the kid at your local library can identify with, man, that's the way to go. Mummy, the Will, and the Crypt. You cannot go wrong with this book. Goosebumps gives you a thrill. John Bellairs will give you a chill. And as a horror author and as as a horror author myself and as a Bram Stoker Award finalist, I can tell you there is a big difference between getting a thrill and getting a chill. And if you're looking for the chill, you're looking for The Mummy, the Will, and the Crypt by John Bellairs. All right, I hope that is helpful. This will take you back, if you're a grown-up like me who feels more young at heart, this book will take you back to the good old days of browsing your local independent bookstore and trying to find that one book to spend your precious $3 on. This is worth the money, 100%. So check out The Mummy, the Will, and the Crypt. I hope this has been helpful, and may you have a cloudy, spooky day.